What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to EXJW Diaries. My name is Justin. So today I have another interview for you guys. Actually, this is a follow-up interview. Tony has come back on the channel to give some updates and to talk about his experiences with feeling true unconditional love after leaving the organization versus the very conditional love that he felt within the organization. And he's also going to talk about something that many of us, if not all of us, have experienced when leaving the witnesses and even while in the witnesses, which is cognitive dissonance. If you haven't seen Tony's first interview, definitely check that out. It is magnificent. And he's really talking about things that, they're hard to talk about, but they're things that really need to be talked about in regards to this organization. So, without further ado, here is Tony's follow-up interview.
All right. Well, just a little update. Since your interview several months ago, I first have to say thank you for doing that interview. In many ways, it's therapeutic. But one of the things that I really wasn't expecting was the support from the former Jehovah's Witness communities. The support has been tremendous. Over 400 comments, people inviting us over for dinner in England and Canada, all over the world, and showing their condolences for the loss of our son, and just being there for us. It made me feel that you're not alone. You think you are, but if you reach out to the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, there's so much love and so much support there. Really caring people. And then there's over 400 comments, and then they'll tell you their story. And a lot of people have been hurt very bad. It makes my story still bad, but there's worse. And you hear that, and you one thing you have in common is we've all been hurt. We've all been hurt by this false religion, by this cult. Say it what it is, we have that in common, though. So if you meet a former Jehovah's Witness, they're being shunned, more than likely. They've given up years. Then they find out it's not true. So you have a commonality with these people. And it's kind of a bond. But the support we've gotten from that community has been tremendous. A couple examples. As soon as the video went live, as soon as the interview went live, I was contacted by several former Jehovah's Witnesses that I knew personally, that knew me in this area, that were at the same Kingdom Hall I went to, and they offered, their support and their help, and if there's anything they could do, they're here for me, and my wife, and it was just very, very loving and touching. People I didn't know from other states found out my phone number, and that's fine, and they called me. One was a special pioneer in Israel who learned to speak Hebrew, and that was part of their waking up process. Joe and Fran hooked us up with several people that we've met person to person. We had meals with. Very encouraging. Very encouraging. They're on their journey. We're on our journey. One thing I learned from all this is when you leave this religion that you thought was true and you realize it's not, you've been lied to, and you've got years invested, and you've got friends you lose and family you lose. You're on this journey now of regrouping, of getting your life back, making friends, moving on. And everybody's at a different point on this journey. So important, I believe, for the EXJW community to realize that we're all on a different point in this journey. When we were in the Watchtower, we all had to wear the same outfits, speak the same, say the same thing, have the same thoughts. Now it's not that way, and that's something I have to remember, is that we're all on this journey, and we're all in a different place in this journey. That everybody's been so loving and so kind. It's been very, very beneficial. One person I met up with was actually a teenager during 1975, and he talked about that, how they said, stay alive till 75. And then when he got out, he started researching and realized, I didn't know this. He said, they said the same thing in 1925. They said, stay alive till 25. And we laughed about that. So the Watchtower uses the same tactics. They know it works. They're going to use the same thing over and over again. One thing that was interesting, my wife and I said, why don't we call your brother? When I was gung-ho, I believed it with all my heart. I was 23 or 24 years old. And my wife's younger brother, he was probably 18 or 19 at the time. I studied with him, indoctrinated him. My wife studied with his girlfriend. I studied with him, and they both progressed to the point of becoming Jehovah's Witnesses and getting baptized. After a short period of time, he decided, this isn't for him. So he wrote a letter and said he didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. And I remember talking to him and telling him, if you do this, we won't be able to talk to you. We will have to shun you. You can't be part of our life anymore. And I remember telling him this. Now, looking back, he was a good person. And the only reason we were going to shun him is because other people that didn't know me, didn't know him, told me that's what you have to do. And we believed it. We followed the governing body's direction. These strangers make decisions for you. And I have to tell you, it wreaked havoc on my wife's side of the family. Nothing was ever the same. There was a lot of hard feelings, and it just broke up that family. So we lost them. They lost us. Years, decades. So when my wife and I woke up, we talked, and we decided, let's give him a call. So we gave her brother a call together on speakerphone. I told him why we called and wanted to apologize to him. Told him that I realized it's all false, that it was a cult. And if I could do it over again, I would do it over again differently. And I apologized for shunning him. It was wrong. And would he forgive us? And he was very gracious and very loving and openly forgave us. And it's so refreshing, so natural to have natural affection for a family member. And no hard feelings. We've had several conversations since. I look forward to seeing him in person. He's in Florida. One of the things he said to me, this was about 40 years ago when I studied with him. During one of the studies, he said, Tony, do you remember I asked you, what if decades from now, we believe the end, we believe Armageddon's coming today. We do. We believe it's going to come any day now. What if decades from now, Armageddon hasn't come, Tony. He goes, do you remember me asking you that question? And I said to him, I really don't, but we talked about so many things, and I have no doubt you would have asked that. He goes, well, do you want to know how you answered? And I said, yeah. He goes, are you sure? Said, yeah. He goes, well, here's what you said to me. You said to me, if Armageddon doesn't come for decades, or if decades go on and it still hasn't happened, you'll know. He said, you told me I would know then it's not the truth. And when I called him, I said, well, here we are decades later, and it didn't happen. And I don't believe it's true anymore. Not only because of that, but a whole lot of other reasons. So we connected. As a result of that, Robin has 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and we haven't seen any of them for many years, some for decades. And as a result of the interview, they watched the interview. We've reconnected. We've had dinner with her brother, one of her brothers. It was wonderful, so wonderful. And then Friday, later this week, we're going to go to Cincinnati, Ohio, meet up with a sister and her family that we haven't seen in probably 15 years. So we're reconnecting all these people that when you get serious about this religion, it takes you away. It isolates you from everybody and pulls you away from everybody that's not a Jehovah's Witness. We all know that. The thing I'm finding out is those people still love us. We still love them. And the results I've had from trying to reconnect has been wonderful. They've all been so loving and happy to have us back in their lives and happy to support us any way they can. And it's been so refreshing. On the other side of that, as a result of my video, of your interview, one of my older brothers who is a witness, I tried to get together with him recently, a few weeks ago, because we were on vacation in the same city he was in, and I left him a message on the phone. Hey, can we get together for dinner? We'll leave religion off the table. I haven't seen you in years. I'll buy the dinner. I just want to see you. I love you. He sent me a text message back saying, since you publicly spoke out against my God and my everything I believe in, until you have a change of heart, I can't see you. And I thought, what kind of a religion would do that? If you leave if you don't believe it anymore and you leave it, you're going to be punished. What kind of a religion can say they're good if they want to punish you for leaving? So those are some things I've learned. The relationships I'm forming now with people, I hope they'll be friends for the rest of my life, and they're not going to be conditional relationships. They're because of love, and you want to be with these people. And so it's an interesting thing we're learning. When my wife's sister contacted her yesterday, as a matter of fact, and invited us to get together later in the week, we were pretty floored because we haven't seen them in so long. And it's just amazing that when you reach out to others and give them a chance, they're there for you and we're there for them. So it's been a very refreshing experience for us, very much. Still haven't seen my daughter or granddaughter way over 2 years. She's not happy with the interview, of course, but maybe someday they'll change. My hope is someday they'll wake up. I woke up. My brother-in-law said to me the one that was a witness that we had shunned for 40 years, he said, Tony, I have to take a while to process this. I never thought in my life I'd hear you say those words. He said, I just never thought. He goes, this is going to take me a few days to really have it sink in what you're saying. But he's so forgiving, and so nice, and it's been just the way it should be. Family shouldn't be broke up like this.
Wow, man. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that you've been getting all that support.
Very much.
One question I definitely have for you is this is the first time that you have spoken out publicly. So what have you noticed in the difference between conditional love and unconditional love?
Well, it's like my older brother's comment, unless you have a change of heart, and my daughter's comment, unless you return to Jehovah, I can have nothing with you, nothing to do with you. And it's to hold that over a person, that's why we faded for so many years without saying anything, because I knew that's what it would come out, what would happen. And I guess that's one thing that anyone that's PMO, I was contacted by several physically and mentally out people. Even in the comments, the person would say, I'm a PMO. He's going to meetings, but he's faking it because he doesn't want to lose his friends and family. Several comments like that from several individuals. So the difference is you can find people that love you for who you are and will support you, or people that will only love you if you go to meetings. And as soon as you go to meetings, they stop. They cut you off at the knees, and they will. And so anybody that's a PMO is thinking of leaving, you'll lose friends and you'll lose family, but you'll make new ones. You have to reach out. I'm not saying it's easy, but there's a whole community of former Jehovah's Witnesses that we need one another. And I think we'll be there for one another.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. This community really, we need each other, and we got to support one another. And I think your story really shows what happens when we support one another. That even though you're being shunned on one side, here's this overwhelming, true, unconditional love on the other side.
Yep.
And it can,
yeah. And it's, when I talk, we've met face to face with several people at different stages of leaving or have left. Several that have been disfellowshipped, several that have faded. And they all have one thing in common. They've all been hurt. They've all been hurt by this organization. So to talk to somebody that's never been a Jehovah's Witness, most of my neighbors know my story because I'm out walking my dog every day and I talk to a lot of people, but they've never lived as a Jehovah's Witness. They've never lived the culture. There's a whole different culture, a whole different way of life that if you haven't lived it, you can hear about it. But when I meet face to face with someone that used to be a brother or used to be a sister, or that still is and is keeping it undercover, or has left and is also being shunned, they've lived it. They know the culture. You have a bond with them. And I want to be there for them, and they're there for me. So it's a more genuine friendship than knowing that, hey, boy, if I question this belief or tell them how I really feel, I'm gonna be ostracized. So it's a different type of relationship.
Yeah, much healthier type of relationship for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, you ready to switch gears?
I'm ready if you are.
All right. Okay. So, cognitive dissonance. That's a subject that I think almost every XJW has had to face in their journey of waking up and questioning this organization.
Yes.
Especially after years, many of them, some of them, their entire life, they've viewed the Watchtower as something that was unquestionable.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, what can you tell us about this subject and how extra Jehovah's Witnesses can get over it and get through it?
This is an interesting subject because cults, we know the tactics they use. People that have studied cults or high control groups, it could be a business that's a cult, but people that have studied cults, they use the fog model. They instill fear, obligation, guilt. They really pound that down. And they use the bite model. They control your behavior. They control the information you're receiving. They control your thinking. They control your emotions. So we know that. The other thing cults are counting on is cognitive dissonance. And if you're not familiar with that term, I have tell you what it is from a dictionary. One dictionary said cognitive dissonance is a psychological concept that refers to the mental discomfort or tension that a person experiences when they hold two or more contradictory beliefs, values, or attitudes. This discomfort often motivates people to alter their thoughts or their behaviors to reduce the inconsistency and restore balance. And I thought that's interesting. It's a psychological concept where you're trying to balance two beliefs that don't agree. I found this out also. I thought it was very interesting. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when people hold contradictory beliefs or expectations. In cults, cognitive dissonance can be used to keep members trapped and obedient as they rationalize their commitment to the cult, even when the cult's predictions or promises fail. Cognitive dissonance was first studied by Leon Festinger, who observed a cult. This was back in the 1950s, 56 or 57. He observed a cult that believed that the earth was going to be destroyed by a flood and that they were all going to be rescued by aliens. And when this didn't happen, he studied that they still believed the teachings of the cult, even though this prediction didn't happen. Under another article, How Does Cognitive Dissonance Affect a Cult? In a cult setting, cognitive dissonance often keeps you trapped, as each compromise makes it more painful to admit you've been deceived. You have so much invested, so many years invested, so much time. It's really hard now to admit, hey, I was deceived. It's not the truth. I was handed a bill of goods. Now, I'm going to read something. I don't want to take credit for it because I kind of tweaked it. The comedian George Carlin talked about things, religion, but I would like to talk about an example of cognitive dissonance, Watchtower style. And this is, it may seem really rough, but ask yourself if what I'm saying isn't really true. Okay, let me give you an example of cognitive dissonance. God is love. and he wants you to serve him. He's also called the happy God, and he loves you, and he invites you to serve him. So please serve the happy God who loves you, the loving God. That way, if you choose not to serve him, well, he'll have to kill you at Armageddon. So please join me in worshiping him, this loving God who cares for you. That way you'll be spared, and he won't have to kill you at Armageddon. And invite others to share in this good news. Invite others to tell people about this God of love, this God who's happy, and invite them to share in this message, and remind them if they don't join you in sharing this message, then this God of love will have to kill them too at Armageddon. In the past, in Noah's day, God saw the earth and he saw that it was ruined. And it was ruined because he saw violence filled the earth, and the violence saddened him. He felt that the violence ruined the earth. But he's a happy God and a loving God. So his solution was to murder everybody. Murder every man, woman, child, pregnant woman, puppy, kitten. That was his solution to the violence. He hated violence so much that he decided murder was the best solution. So he's a happy God, he's a loving God, and he's also rich. He is wealthy. So what would be better than serving a God that's happy, a God that's loving and wealthy? All the gold and all the silver and all the universe belongs to him. He has it all. But he wants your money, and he wants my money. He wants little Sophia's money. Little Sophia, maybe as a parent, you can tell little Sophia, I know you've been saving up your allowance money, and now you have enough money for an ice cream cone. You mentioned that you wanted to get 2 scoops of ice cream. Maybe as a parent, you could talk to little Sophia, and instead of getting 2 scoops, get 1 scoop. And then the money you save from not buying that second scoop, you can give that to God because he wants your money. Well, you might ask, how can I give that money to God? Well, you could give that to Jehovah by giving that money to the Watchtower Corporation. You want to be God's friend. You don't want to be God's enemy. One of the ways you can be his friend, the leaders of the Watchtower even said, is by giving him your money. That way you'll be his friend. If you're not his friend, you'll be his enemy. If you're his enemy, then he'll have to kill you in Armageddon. Well, anyway, come with me and join me in serving this loving God, this happy God. And isn't that good news? So how about a free home Bible study? That's rough. But really, isn't that the message? And when I mentioned Sophia, that was an actual video the Watchtower Society put out with that very thing, to be God's friend, and Sophia to give Watchtower Bible and Tract Society Incorporated her allowance money. So that's my take on cognitive dissonance, Jehovah's Witness style.
Nice take. Good take. Good take.
But I
So,
can't take the credit. That was George Carlin did it first.
but still good information. Definitely good information. So, what are some ways that people can get over that cognitive dissonance, especially when they're first going through that waking up process? What are some things that they can do to get over that?
Read. You're first waking up. You've been told not to look at anything outside of the watchtower. Um, do a lot of reading. Read the book Crisis of Conscience. Look at all of the former Jehovah's Witness podcasts like yourself. Get in touch with the community of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And it'll just kind of all come together. Don't stop reading. Don't stop listening to things. And it never ends. Once you start looking into things and looking into the beginnings of this religion, this cult, and you just keep learning and learning and learning and think to yourself, man, why didn't I know this? Why wasn't I taught this? And the other thing I think is I'm learning you really can't wake anybody up. There's nothing that I, as a former Jehovah's Witness, can say to my brothers or my daughter or my granddaughter. I don't think there's anything I can say. They're going to have to see it one day. And if and when that day comes, when they wake up, I'll be there for them, I hope. So that's something I've learned. You can't force people. You can just be there for them when they wake up, if they wake up. In the meantime, you have to take care of yourself and do a lot of research. And the more you research, the more you'll realize that, yeah, I'm on the right track now. And you start rebuilding your life. I mean, you went through it, and everyone that leaves, you're going to have some really rough days. It's almost like it's almost like mourning someone, because people will view you as almost like dead. You're out of their life, even though you want them in your life. But in time, that gets better. And in time, you learn to live again. And that's when it gets interesting and fun. And you make new friends and new opportunities and regain some old family back. And it's been real nice. And for my wife and I, we think we're in the right direction. We're going to continue. And I hope my family wakes up. I really do.
Yeah, hopefully they do. Hopefully they do. The way that the watchtower is going and all these changes, and sooner or later they're going to do something that's going to cause people to question them a little bit too much. We can hope.
Yeah. And I haven't, just hearing reports from some of the people that are still going to the meetings, is that I hear they're asking for donations a lot now, and they never did that. I haven't been to meetings in 20 years, but they very rarely would ask for money. And now I guess it's a common thing, and that alone would wake me up.
Yeah.
How different really are you than all the others?
Yep.
But
So
yeah.
you mentioned crisis of conscience, which sparked up something up in my head for a second, because I remember when I was going through my waking up process, that was the book that got me over that cognitive dissonance hump. That was the book that stopped me from going back and forth, getting out of that mindset of saying, you know what, maybe I'll just stay, maybe Jehovah will fix this. Then I read that book and it's like, oh, no, I'm done. So what was it about that book that that got through to you? What is it about that book that you think is so helpful to people?
Because it just has a ring of sincerity, a ring of truth, and it's from the inside. And you see what he went through as a governing body member when he started to have doubts, when he started to question, and how they put him out. And when you look at the Jehovah's Witness community, how so many people question things and then they're put out. But that book specifically talked about so many things. The blood issue, when they found out that 607 wasn't correct, and he brought that up to the president of the Watchtower at the time, and then he said, no, we're just going to keep it as is. The people that had to be in prison because of taking a neutral stand when they could have done civilian service in a hospital, but the Watchtower made them go to prison rather than do civilian service. Example over and over like that. It just hit home. And then what they did to Ray Franz, and then he documented everything. That book, he documented every letter he wrote, every meeting, and it's all right there for you to see how it all went down. And looking at the history of the Watchtower organization, the history of Charles Taze Russell and Joe Rutherford, and really what kind of men they were, the things that behind the scenes that you didn't hear about, that you didn't know about, that is right there, public record for you to see, and see how this religion that you believed really was the truth, see how it really started. It's very, very strong. And I've talked to several people that also, when they read that book, it's like, wow, you can't go back. You can't go back. So that was a starting point. And then you just start looking at things, and one thing leads to another. And then you just say to yourself, why didn't I see it for so many decades? I believed it. But yeah, there's a lot of cracks in that foundation right now, a lot. So how long will it last? It's kind of interesting, but maybe we're seeing it. Maybe it's happening now.
Maybe. I can hope so. We'll see what happens.
Maybe the protest
thank you.
Helped.
Yeah, maybe. Well, thank you so much for coming back on. Did you have any last statements to make?
No, I'm looking forward to reuniting with family and friends later this week. Again, I haven't seen some of them in about 15 years. I'm looking forward to meeting some former Jehovah's Witnesses in a few days. Again, we're going to have a meal together. And, we're all on a different journey. I still believe in God. Some that leave don't. Some become atheists. Some dive into another religion. And we're on a different journey. But we've all been hurt by this cult. So I think we can't judge one another. We just have to support one another. And you're going to have some hard times, and you're going to have some good times. And each day, I think, for me, is getting better. We're getting stronger. I'm getting more focused on where I'm going and what I want to do. So I'm focusing now on not looking back. We're told so many times not to look back, and that's what I'm trying to do now. Not look back, just look forward, and it looks pretty good looking forward.
That's good. That's definitely good to hear. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully have
Thank
you
you.
on again. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview. Thank you so much to Tony for coming back on again. Really, really appreciate you. Hopefully you come back on even more. During the first part of the interview, Tony spoke about his experience of feeling true unconditional love after leaving the organization. And I think it's a very, very good point. Because it shows that if we come together as a community, we rally behind each other, we have love for one another, true love, not the fake love that we were taught as Jehovah's Witnesses. We are free from that now. So we are in charge of the type of community that we want to build. So we do have the power to build something that is based on love, based on unconditional love, where people can feel free and people can feel safe. That way, when people leave the Jehovah's Witnesses, even though the Watchtower is telling them that their life will go downhill, the Watchtower is telling them that they will be alone, they're going to take away everybody, that they will be crawling back to them, begging to be reinstated. But that doesn't have to be the case. As Tony showed with his story, we rally around each other, we build up this community in a loving way. When people leave, even though they're being shunned, even though they may feel alone, we can provide them a nice, soft place to land. And speaking of support, I just want to say from my own side, thank you so much to all of you who gave Tony so much support, so much love from his first interview. So with all that being said, I want to thank you so much for watching. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for your support. Stay tuned and get subscribed if you haven't already, because I have something coming very, very soon that I've been working very, very hard on. In fact, it was actually developed alongside a retired psychologist. So stay tuned and get subscribed, and you will see what that is very, very soon. I'm very excited to reveal it to you guys. But in the meantime, take it easy on yourself, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.